And for more on this story, Giorgio Cafierio, CEO of Gulf State Analytics, joins us now from Washington, D.C. Thank you for your time, Giorgio, for us here at TRT World. Now, it seems like the Sudan's Military Council is beginning to listen to the demands of protesters.
Yeah, I think there's some good reason to be optimistic about the situation in Sudan right now. You know, the rhetoric and the words coming from some of the high-ranking military officials are about meeting the demands of citizens who've taken to the streets really to demand a democratic revolution. I think it's going to be really important to see how events unfold, though, in the upcoming weeks, upcoming months. You know, how much power is going to actually be transferred into the hands of civilians, and, you know, all this talk about releasing some of the police who were arrested for siding with protesters, releasing other political prisoners, and so on and so forth. There's going to, of course, have to be actions to back up the words. But again, the language, I think, should be seen as a source of some optimism here.
Giorgio Al-Burhan, the new council chief, said that transition to civilian-led rule could still last up to 2 years. Now, is it possible that this happened earlier?
Well, many on the streets clearly want to have this civilian leadership at the helm much sooner. What remains to be seen is if there can be some sort of agreement between the majority of those citizens who are protesting and have been protesting since late last year, and those who have the real power inside this regime.
Now, Giorgio, how important is the stability of Sudan for the region? Many will watch closely what will happen in the country in the next few weeks.
There are many regional actors that have high stakes in this very delicate transition that's taking place in Sudan. Sudan is, of course, a country bordering Egypt. It has a long Red Sea coast line. The security of Sudan will inevitably impact the security of other Arab and African countries. Now, what's important to take note of is how quick the leadership in Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi, as well as Egypt, expressed support for the military that ousted Bashir this month. Obviously, these are states that have vested stakes in the status quo in the region. They would not like to see Islamist groups ascend to power as a consequence of Bashir's ouster, or at least further ascend to power, or see other political elements come to power that would challenge the status quo in the region. And it seems that these states are going to want to try to be in control, or at least able to heavily influence the transition that's taking place right now.
So are we seeing a regional geopolitics playing out in Sudan right now, especially given the extent to which the country is tied into a network of relationship around the Middle East?
Yeah, well, you know, the Gulf region has been very polarized ever since the Qatar crisis broke out in the middle of 2017. Sudan has been able to maintain neutrality in that dispute. Sudan has certainly grown closer to Qatar and Turkey in recent years, but this has not really been at the expense of Sudan's very close alliance with Saudi Arabia as well as Abu Dhabi. I think it's possible that we're going to see some more pressure put on Sudan from the countries blockading Qatar to try to distance Sudan from Qatar and Turkey moving forward. But I have to point out, though, that many in Sudan see this as their revolution, and it's very possible that foreign meddling or attempts from outside to sort of influence the transition could ignite some real anger on the part of many in Sudan, who I think quite naturally see the support that Saudi Arabia and the UAE expressed for Sudan's military within the same framework of what happened in Egypt back in 2013 when Riyadh and Abu Dhabi also supported the government that came to power in a coup that year.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Giorgio Cafierio, CEO of Gulf State Analytics. Thanks so much for that insight for us here at TRT World.